Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the podcast. Still in this beta phase, still in this pilot phase, the TPWC podcast. In this edition, we'll be covering a short recap, focus on the key events from UFC Vegas 79. We'll be talking about Adesanya's DUI. We'll be talking about Khamzat switching nationalities, switch from Sweden to UAE, and talking more about that and our opinions on that. And we'll be talking about Colby Covington's undeserved title shot. So that's pretty much the topics for this card. For this video, for this pilot, for this podcast. And let's get into it. So the first one, we'll be talking about UFC Vegas 79, short recap, focus on the three key fights. So the first one, Malkoun versus Brundage. Brundage looked every bit of a lock, but all it takes is one mistake and you lose the fight. But was that really DQ worthy, or was that more no contest worthy, or is that something that he can contest? At this point, do we really care if he contested? Because we already lost money. But for him, I feel like that's a fight he can contest, and take an L off his record and get that fight, run that fight back, and he would definitely win. And I would definitely say he's locking it. He was definitely worth every penny. It's not a case of, he wasn't worth minus 500. Did you watch the fight? He was destroying him. He was worth every penny. He looked minus 2,000 in that fight. It's just a case of something happened. So it's not Malkoun didn't do it. Somebody was in comments saying like minus 5. He didn't deserve to be minus 500. Did you watch the fight? He looked minus 9,000, like minus 9 million in that fight. He just made a bad mistake. And my assessment, I think that should have been no contest. I see exactly what he was doing. It could look like a very blatant elbow, but I've been in a position where I'm competing, whether it be like wrestling or basketball or some stuff. I've tried to gauge something, and it could look weird when you try to foresee something and you mistime it. Like you try to hit where they're going to move. It happens. I saw at the time when he was setting the elbow up, Brundage's side of his head was open. Then Brundage would try to transition. Then it was back his head. So it might look weird, like he was trying to blatantly go for a finish and try to hit it, but he was trying to time it and hit him on the temple. And I could clearly saw how it was set out. Like when I watched it live, I was like, oh, that looks so blatant. But when the rewind and stuff, and the refs said, I don't know if the refs have a chance to see the rewind or whatnot. I don't think they do, but they can step out the cage and look at it and stuff. But nonetheless, the first instance I saw the slow-mo, I saw exactly how it looked from his perspective and how it could happen. It was just one. It wasn't like he kept, people getting away with blatantly just keep punching somebody in the back of the head, like combos to the back of the head, keep smacking the back of the head, pinning their head on the ground and hammer fists in their head. Like people get away with that all the time. It was one elbow that he was trying to gauge. And I'm pretty sure if the ref would have warned him, he would have not done it again. So I don't think one particular thing should ever be necessarily DQ worthy. I feel like it should be more so no contest worthy. I can understand maybe in a title fight because you want to have a winner typically, but in a non-title fight, irrelevant fight for the most part like this, I feel like that should have clearly been a no contest right there because it was just one time. It was not consecutive shots back. It was one time, and he was clearly trying to time it. It just, again, didn't pan out the way he did because he tried to time it, but it didn't play out like he was expecting to play out. He tried to beat him to where he was moving, but at the end of the day, it just landed on his head. So how you feel about that? You feel like it should be a no contest, DQ, and how do you feel about how that should be regarded as far as fights in general? Should it always be a one and done DQ, or should it be like you need more than one, or it got to be a heinous case for them to make it a DQ? How you feel?
Yeah, I everybody was betting on Malkoun, so we're all going to be biased towards that being like, oh, dude, he should have been, it should have been a DQ. It shouldn't have been it should have been a no contest. And that's what I feel like it should have been just in general, because like you said, when his elbow was coming down, he would, Brundage's head was moving. So he moved his head forward and then moved his head back. And when he moved his head back, that's when the elbow came down. And it wasn't blatant. It wasn't like he intentionally tried to hurt Brundage, and it didn't look like all that much. I'm sure Brundage has been hit with way worse than that. And it's like, I feel bad for Brundage because he was getting dominated. And at that point, I think he was like, I just don't see how I win this fight. And that's everybody can try to size up and say what was going on in Brundage's head, because he didn't look out of it. He didn't look like he was seeing double. He just looked like he was frustrated. One, because he got hit in the back of the head, and two, because the fight wasn't going the way he wanted it to. And Cody Brundage came in looking sharp. I almost mixed up him and Malcone because when he came out, he looked fresh, man. He was in shape. He looked like he was ready to come in for a war, and Malcone just did what he was supposed to do. You know what I mean? And you can't be mad at someone for making a mistake when the person's moving and you're going in. And like, I think it should have either been a warning or they should have done a no contest. And that, I know we're all biased because we all picked him to win. Like, I don't know one place that I've looked that people had Brundage winning. We did have a couple people in our Discord that bet on Brundage first round because it was like plus 1,700, and that's not a bad hit. You know what I mean? I'm excited for those people, but I feel bad ultimately for Malcone. Also because I got my cousin to bet for the first time, and the Malcone fight voided his parlay, and it was sad. I was like, man, things happen. It wasn't intentional. Everybody knows that it wasn't intentional. It looks like he was going down towards the back, and then Brundage moved his head. But yeah, I think Malcone should have got a no contest for sure.
All right. Now on to the next one. We're gonna kind of talk about a couple of things with this next fight. We're talking about Dan Ige versus Bryce Mitchell. So we're gonna talk about who do you think won. We're gonna talk about, religion and MMA. Should it be a thing? Should not be a thing? We know we got different variations. So you feel like people should not be mentioned, or should it be mentioned in a certain way? It should be police, or should it be freedom of speech for everything in the cage, or how you feel? And we'll talk about that. And also potential next fights for Mitchell. Did he look good? Did he look bad? Did he look the same? And who should he fight next? So first off, let's say, I think he won the fight. I think it was a clear decision. I think he was the side and everything. And I think the fight played out, roughly how it should. I think Dan Ige looked better than he ever looked in that situation. Like, usually I feel I've seen him get taken down and controlled pretty easily in some of his fights. Not to say all of his fights, some of his fights, going in with guys who have solid BJJ skills and are solid, well-rounded, top tier talent. So he did a good job actually defending some of Bryce Mitchell's takedowns, and he did much better on the feet. He was doing well. But at the end of the day, Bryce Mitchell was able to take him down, get large amounts of control time, do decent damage. And I think he won the fight. I don't think it was a case of, he did damage, Ige did more damage so that he should win the fight. Now, he got taken down, he got controlled, outpositioned. He fought a good fight, but he clearly lost the fight. So in that case, I think he clearly lost the fight. And Mitchell was the side, and he won, and he did what he was supposed to do, and he did what was track record of both guys. And as far as next fights, I'm gonna jump to next fights, then I'm gonna go to religion. But as far as next fights, I think Mitchell should maybe look out for the winner. Sodiq Yusuff wins his next fight against Barboza, I think that should be the fight. Because Sodiq Yusuff is trying to get to be a title challenger type fighter. And I feel Barboza will be a good name for his resume. It's not even an easy fight for him, to be honest. Barboza is a very hard fight for Sodiq Yusuff. But if Sodiq Yusuff could get by him, which he should be able to get by him, I think Mitchell should be a fight that really can catapult him to, a number one contender or a title fight. Maybe not be a top number one, but maybe a number 5, and then maybe Volkanovski or Ilia Topuria might need a first title defense, and then that'll put him right in that right position. I don't think he'll be popping in and be a number one contender type of title challenger. I can see Sodiq Yusuff, if he gets past Barboza and Mitchell, then he could be that like number 5 type of title challenger. Like, he's not the first, second, third, fourth option, but he's available right now, and the champion has already either beat these guys or these other guys aren't available. So I think that could be good. And for Mitchell, if he could beat, get back-to-back wins now, and get a win over Sodiq Yusuff, then he puts himself probably one more win away from a title shot. So I think that's a good matchup for Mitchell in his next fight. So really looking at Sodiq Yusuff if he does win, and then maybe facing the loser of Volkanovski or Ilia Topuria or something like that could be a good matchup for him next. And then the final thing about this religion thing, I had mixed thoughts or mixed feelings about this one. Then at first I was kind of leaning like religion is okay, just kind of in the general way, praying for your health, praying for your opponent's health, praying, for your victory and success and whatnot. The general thing, just giving thanks to your God or whatnot. I think I was thinking that. But, kind of slamming anyone else's religion or slamming, I guess I would say in general, I would say slamming anyone else's religion is pretty bad. Like, I'm not going to say that. That's your freedom of speech should never be like be you slamming someone else's religion and some other stuff. But, yeah, I think that's about it. Like, now that's where I kind of come to. I feel like you kind of talk some trash, say what you want to say, say, people kind of sleeping on God or whatnot or getting away from God. You can say that, I feel. That's his belief and stuff. Doesn't really do people really care. I guess some people do. It's interesting enough. But I think that falls under freedom of speech. I think that's okay. Am I really for it? Like, oh my gosh, I would love to hear this guy say this. Not necessarily. But I don't really have an issue with necessarily what he said. Do I agree with everything he said? I don't. But do I really care? Like, I'm butthurt or I feel like some type of way or like he should be police fined or something for that? I don't. Like, if he wants to do that, say that, cool for him. But at the end of the day, this is like fighters. These aren't politicians or anything like this. So you gotta get them a little bit of breathing room. You don't want to be everybody be like same cookie cutter. Everybody wear the same outfit. Everybody say the same thing. You got to have people that are different, and they definitely gonna cash out on people being different. They're gonna hate on. They're gonna try to police people for being different. But the moment somebody start getting a million, selling million tickets, they can say whatever. They can say they had sex with your wife. Say Conor McGregor. Your wife in my DMs or whatever stuff. Now all of a sudden it's cool, but when you ain't got no back and like, wait, you shouldn't say that. You're fine. You're cut. So you gotta just be honest. Like they really don't. Like especially Dana White and the people, they don't care about that. So I don't think the fans really care about either. They care about the numbers and dollar signs. But I think only that you should kind of really be policed is like, are you coming in there saying people should be killed, murdered? Are you saying coming in talking down on people's religions and beliefs and countries? And that's probably the case. But then again, you had Chael Sonnen talking about Brazil. So yeah, to some degree. But yeah, I think only a very short bit should be managed or controlled a little bit. But other than that, I think freedom of speech is pretty good for it. How you feel?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'll start with how I think Bryce Mitchell did. Was it a 30-27 by any of the judges?
I think it was 130-27. I think when I heard that one, I knew who won.
Yeah,
But I think what? Yeah.
No. Yeah, I was just gonna say, that's what my prediction was. I felt like Dan Ige was gonna come in there and give him a hard time, and that's exactly what he did. That cut above his eye, or the swelling above his eye, it got me a little nervous at first but Bryce Mitchell's, Doug Nasty. He's not gonna be like, oh no, I'm not, I can't go anymore, like Cody Brundage said. But I think there's a lot of people that Bryce Mitchell can fight. I think Yair Rodriguez, I don't think he should fight Max Holloway. I don't think he's at that level yet. I think he can fight Brian Ortega, Arnold Allen, Mozart Ivoyev. I forget. It's so hard to say his name. Him or Sadiq Youssef. I think any one of those five, the Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega, Arnold Allen, Mozart Ivoyev, and Sadiq Youssef. I think any one of those fights makes sense. The Yair Rodriguez would probably be bump him up really high if he was able to get him down and hold him down. But Yair Rodriguez is evolved, and I know he just lost to Alexander Volkanovski, but I don't think Bryce Mitchell's ready at the stage of his career after losing to Ilia Topuria like that to jump in and try and get that title shot, because sometimes that only comes once in a fighter's lifetime. Sometimes they only get that shot once. Not everybody's Colby Chaos Covington and they get a title shot after only winning once or not fighting in 2,000 days. As far as the God thing goes, I'm like super pro Islam. Like that's the religion that I stick most with when I look at fighters, and because of their dedication, they pray 5 times a day. They don't eat pork. They're very strict, and there's a lot of fighters that aren't Muslim. Like look at Alexander Volkanovski. He fought a great Muslim fighter in Islam, and he almost won. But overall, I think just being able to say how you feel. Like I'll give you an example. When Khamzat Chimaev won against Kevin Holland, he was like, Allah Akbar, I'll kill everybody. And I was like, oh, that's not going to age well, because I'm pretty sure that's what, jihad fighters say when they go to like blow themselves up. But I didn't think anything of it, because I just know it means God is great. but then he says, I'll kill everybody. So in that sense, I think like Dana White does, he lets Sean Strickland just say whatever's on his mind, and he wants to kill people and all this stuff. I think with Bryce Mitchell, I think he didn't realize he was on the Disney Channel at that moment, and he was accusing celebrities of purposefully starting the fires in Hawaii, and I think that was more of a issue, and that's when like Daniel Cormier was like, all right, I got to take this mic and walk out, because he started screaming that stuff, and I think everybody's their opinion is valid, no matter if it's right or wrong. It's their opinion, and they should stick with it, and we should respect it no matter how the person feels. That's how it's supposed to be. But you got the right and the left going after each other, and it just muddies the rest of it. That's why I like Islam so much, because there's no muddy in the waters in that religion. You are what you say you are. And with Christianity, I think it's been watered down so much in the US that its original roots are no longer there. But yeah, I think Bryce Mitchell, I think the most controversial thing he said was that he thought the Hawaii fires were started by celebrities, and I think that's where he went wrong. I don't know about religion. I respect it. I don't ever try to step on anybody else's beliefs, and I try to empower my friends that have strong spiritual beliefs, because it works for them. But what do you think? You want to move on to Gamrot and Rafael Fiziev?
Yeah, I think that's the next thing we should hop on to. So, next thing we're gonna talk about the main event from UFC Vegas 79, Fiziev versus Gamrot. Just really just go over it briefly and then on to the next topic. So, yeah, that was pretty interesting. Like, the fight ended by injury. Both guys were looking pretty good. I think Fiziev probably won the first round. Second round was like his lean into Gamrot. You kind of were gauging where everybody was kind of leaning. Capping the fight or predicting the fight. It seemed like Fiziev would kind of need a finish around the third round, second round, maybe fourth round. And Gamrot, typically gonna be the more cardio fighter. Fiziev gonna be the guy that kind of fade. So you kind of like he gonna at least need some of those early rounds. So giving up a round kind of could have been a bad look already going into the third round, and now he needed to win that third round badly or get a finish third round. So you can look at it a lot of different ways. Or you could say he was pacing himself, but nonetheless, it was a pretty good fight that ended short. You don't want the fight to end that way, and you don't want to really try to get too much. Say, oh, he was the better fighter. It just happened. Like, both guys fought well. Gamrot probably trained it pretty well, but he didn't purposely. That wasn't really what he was intentionally planned on doing to beat him. It just so happened that way, so he can't really give him full credit for that. But at the end of the day, he did win. And yeah, I can't say it's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, well, that fight should be no contest. It definitely is a loss. Like, you get injured in a fight, you lose. Even if you injure yourself, you just happen to step wrong, you twist your ankle. There's no contest. I can see if somebody poke you in the eye and you can't see, that's a no contest. Or somebody elbow you in the back of the head, that's a no contest. But if you just yourself get injured on a kick, or somebody happens to check your kick or catch a kick on the elbow, that's just that's a TKO loss. That's how the game goes. So it's not really much speculation or nothing to think about that. But yeah, I think the more interesting about this, I think Gamrot, it's interesting that he won. And there's definitely, but it's not no title fight winning fight. And, it's not a number one contender type win. It's not a fight that's gonna get you a title shot. That's one thing. So it's not that interesting on his side. And then, but I think what could be interesting for him next fight will be Poirier. I feel like Poirier needs to fight, I guess one of these fresher faces in the weight class. He kind of has not really been fighting the fresher faces. So matching him up with Gamrot will be a good matchup, and it'd be a good matchup to see how he can do in the grappling with a guy is aggressive in the wrestling department. Haven't really seen him going with a guy like that really since, or at least a younger guy like that since Khabib. So it'll be interesting to see him go in there, and I think it's a winnable fight for both guys. A fight that for Poirier that he could be the guy on a 2-fight winning streak who's relevant, and probably put himself one more win away from a title fight. And for Fiziev, for Gamrot, if he wins that fight, then he's right there. He could get a title shot, especially with a spectacular win over Poirier. And we don't know how this lightweight division is gonna shake up, but regardless, if Oliveira wins big, he probably likely could get a new fresher matchup. And if Makhachev win, division's wide open, so he's gonna be looking for a number one contender or some guy to fight. So it's a good matchup. And as far as Fiziev goes, like that's the kind of the interesting and kind of sad or the negative part here. Fiziev, that injury, he's not gonna come back in like the end of this year. He's not gonna come back like January, February. At the very least, unless if he gets some, I mean, at the very most, if he gets some stem cells or something crazy, take some steroids, he might come back in May, get some titanium legs, maybe come back in May. So, but we're really looking like mid to late, really late 2024 return from him. But I think he's only like 31, 32. So that still could be detrimental to his career. But I do think he could come back better from this fight, or at least come back with more focus, with more energy, with more intensity because of this loss and more hunger. And I definitely think he'll bounce back. I definitely think he'll bounce back. But yeah, it's definitely some time off for him. But how do you feel about the fight and the outcome?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I like Rafael Fiziev a lot. I like his style. He has that like Peter Yan come forward, throw kicks as hard as you can, and he hurt himself. And it's not the same as like you said, the elbow to the back of the head. It's he got injured in a way that wasn't wasn't an accident. It obviously was an accident, but like it didn't happen by an eye poke. It didn't happen by a groin kick or or an elbow to the back of the head. I feel bad for him. I wish him a speedy recovery. I really like his style of fighting. I think his fight against Gaethje showed his true ability and what Gaethje was able to do to Dustin Poirier. I agree. I don't think he'll be back till late 2024. You never know. He might be back in 6 months, and we might all be eating our words. But as far as Mateusz Gamrot, I think like you said, the Dustin Poirier fight makes the most sense. They're both pretty high ranked. Dustin just lost, so he's got to do some serious work to get himself in the number 3 position still, because Mateusz Gamrot won, Dustin Poirier didn't, so he should probably move up to 3 or 4, and Justin Gaethje's probably going to sit out. So I think you're right though. I think Dustin Poirier is the best avenue for the UFC at this point for him to try and get that title shot, because I don't think that was a title contender fight and what happened. And I feel bad for Mateusz Gamrot because he didn't do anything wrong, but it is what it is. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
All right, and that wraps up our UFC Vegas 79 short recap. And now on to the next one, Khamzat switching nations. So Khamzat has now switched from Sweden to UAE, and we don't know if this is a full thing. Like, it's still very new news. Like, so we don't know really what's going on. He's just training there and just trying to stir up some buzz, or did he fully switch camps, switch nations, and all that stuff? And I don't really care too much about all that, to be honest. What I do care about is, can switching the nations actually cause an interference or some issues with his visa, causing this fight with Khamzat with Paulo Costa to be in, I guess, be in trouble? What this matchup is at risk of losing this matchup yet again.
No, they're fighting in the UAE.
Oh, they're fighting UAE.
Yeah,
I guess that does cover it up. I guess if they fight in the UAE and he's in UAE, it ain't gonna be an issue. But like going forward, potentially would that cause some issues? Like, because you switching nations, they're like, oh, you switch nations and stuff, and you know how they already are around the world with Muslim and stuff. You switching nations, like, what's going on here? And then you're friends with a war general or stuff. So like, what's going on? What's exactly going on here? So like, that might cause future issues. But he's a big fighter. And he got big money backing him, so he probably ain't gonna have the same issues that maybe a smaller fighter who getting paid like $20 in a fight, and that's like $10 in a show, $10 to win. he not gonna have as much issues. Those hurdles ain't gonna be as big, or the money he gonna have behind him is gonna make those hurdles very small or non-existent. He could fill the holes in the hurdles with money. But yeah, like, that's a concern going forward. But the fact they are in UAE, I guess that takes away one of my biggest, I guess, conversation topics with this one, because they are fighting in UAE. And also, I guess another thing maybe you could switch on, like, is that going to be a political thing? If it goes to a close decision, maybe Paulo Costa should deservingly win. Is that going to cause the decision? Because they definitely got a lot of money to sway anybody they want to sway in over there. Like, they give people some crazy, ridiculous, stupid money. They got the money. They be just building golden lakes and stuff. They just be money on money. If a fight goes close, there, they could just pay off the judges. It's not like judges get paid a whole lot of money to send it to Chimaev, because they want Chimaev to be a champion, represent Muslims and whatnot. But yeah, that could definitely be a political thing if the fight is very close or close enough for a robbery to potentially happen. Am I saying I'm predicting a particular side right now? No, I'm just saying it's definitely something to think about going to that one. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like, I guess another interesting thing is like he did switch camps at least for now. Is this a long term thing? That's concerning. I'm looking at his team, or at least what he's shown on ID. They don't look very good. But hey, training partners never really be all that good for the most part. Most people be training with guys like you never know. Be training with part time fighters, part time delivery men, part time dads, and whatnot and stuff. But like then you train with those people, and you go out there and you be fighting the best of the best. But you go in there training with the worst of the worst. But so who knows? He's trained with a decent enough coach, I guess, but definitely not the same level of experience of his typical coach. And yeah, I don't understand the full logic behind it, but it's definitely interesting. I don't know if it's going to affect the game good or bad, or are they're going to stay the same. But yeah, it's a lot of interesting things going on with that one, and I guess going to stay on top of that one to see what transpires, good or bad, on both sides. But well, yeah, both sides of the table of what's going on. But how you feel about him switching? Do you think it's going to be a case of this is a bad thing for him? You think it'll be a good thing for him? I think right now it could be a good thing because he's going to be fighting there, so you are good to be acclimated there and be comfortable there. Like now it's like basically, no matter of fact, that is your backyard now. Because if he actually moved, like, so you think he actually moved, and how do you feel all of this will be? Will it be good for him or bad for him?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm a huge Khamzat guy, so anything I say is going to be biased towards him. It's going to be in his favor just because I respect the guy so much. I what he did to Kevin Holland was just incredible, and the fight that he had with Gilbert Burns was just, man, it just made me have so much respect for the sport, just those two fights, because of what he was able to accomplish from coming living in a gym in Sweden and being there every day. I think that's a good point. I think what effect is him not having his coaches that he's had for the last 5 years around him? What's having all this UAE money in his bank account, giving him a mansion in I believe it's Dubai. I don't even know if he's in Abu Dhabi. I believe it's Dubai. And then Ramzat Kadyrov, he has his whole Akhmat fighting promotion and all the ex-UFC fighters that are in the military. I think he's being backed by some big players like Chechnya and UAE. I think it could, from what I've seen, he has two videos out right now on his YouTube channel, and I've watched both of them. And he looks like he's training hard. It looks like he's got good nutritionists, good trainers, good strength and conditioning coaches. As far as his training partners and everybody around him, I think at this point everybody's the yes men to him. I think he's around a lot of yes men because he was able to accomplish a lot in the last 3 years. He started fighting 2020. Is that right?
Well, probably in the UFC. I don't know about his career. He's been fighting
Oh
longer
yeah,
than that.
yeah. That's what I meant. The UFC.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think 2020 came out. I
yeah.
think right
So
around overtime.
yeah, so the last 3 years, almost 4 years. And he's finally at a point now where he has, millionaire money. He has countries that are funding his whole training camp. He had the leader of Chechnya's kids out fighting with him and training with them. So I think I'm really happy for him. I hope he's happy, and that's all that matters. But yeah, I do think not having his coach in his corner, because they know him better than anybody. They started training the kid when he was really young, and they've been there through this whole process of him being in Brave and now the UFC. And I'm really interested to see what effect it has on his career and what he's able to accomplish either with them or without them. You know what I mean? And but I'm excited. I love Khamzat, man. He's my favorite fighter because he's just so ruthless and so like dragging people over to Dana White and screaming at him while he's just like tearing people apart is pretty impressive. But what's next? Adesanya's DUI?
Yeah, Adesanya Yeah, I was at a DWI. What am I thinking about? I'm thinking about
Yeah,
airports and stuff.
most
But yeah,
states, yeah.
DUI. I've been saying it wrong this whole time. DUI. But yeah, Adesanya's DUI is next, and yeah, that's very interesting and very random. That literally just happened today, or at least came out today. It could have happened weeks ago. Could have happened right after the fight, but I haven't really looked too much into it. So, but right now we're really just talking about it. This ain't really like news. Like we just broadcast the news and try to be on point with everything we just conversing about. So it could have happened 2 years ago. Could have happened this year. But right now, this news is literally either hours or even minutes ago. But yeah, it's definitely not a good look. No, there's a whole lot bad happened with Adesanya in a very short amount of time. Just right after that triumphant win over Alex Pereira. Finally beating his rival after going like pretty much what 3-0-3 against him to finally get a win against him. Got the win, had that big win. Got the win in a big way. Had that the biggest win of his whole life. That was a big win, career changing. He was already had money. And I feel like that raised the stocks up, like even doubled his stocks. So already big, that double stocks. You had that big win, that great story, and to do that. And then Sean Strickland or Dustin Poirier was supposed to be like that dream kind of matchup. That whole beef matchup already was the story was already been written, like almost fictional, was like too good to be true. Like this, well, not like it's too good to be true, but it was like easy. The story sold stuff. You got the guy, African by blood versus African by nationality. You had that whole thing like it was easy sell. And both guys were pushing the seller. And then all of a sudden, Dustin Poirier, not Dustin Poirier, but Dricus Duplessis fall out the fight, and then Sean Strickland coming in. He's supposed to be a not as interesting matchup, but supposed to be an easier matchup. But then he goes out there and loses to Sean Strickland. But also going up to the fight, all of a sudden all the little dog tweets and dog pictures and dumb stuff come out. You don't know how that affects him, or that became a bit of a dialogue, and then that didn't look good. Like whether there was truth or not truth to that, or was just him and being weird or whatnot, or was like some real devious sexual deviant stuff with it. It wasn't a good look. And even him trying to play it off or him just trying to go along with the jokes and fuel it, it just was not a good look. Didn't go out there and look flat like he did and lose the way he did to Sean Strickland. Then after that loss, he right after that loss, now a couple weeks after that loss, now he's got a DUI. So just not a good look. Like 3 L's in a row. You lost on the internet, you lost in the fight, and then you lost in your personal life. A DUI, that's not a good look. Driving under influence, that's just not a good look. And whatever you say, that I feel like his title fight, title rematch was already in jeopardy. I feel like the only reason he was really getting it because he's such a big star. Does he really deserve it? Not necessarily. Like say you just lost the belt and got a rematch. You can't lose the belt, get a rematch, win it, then lose it again, then get another instant rematch. And especially when it wasn't like a competitive, controversial decision, like the right man won. There was no controversy behind it. So yeah, it's just, and I think with this situation, that could definitely push him away from it. And even prior to that, like right before that, I was hearing people already shifting to the fact that he's probably going to fight the winner of Khamzat versus Costa or something like that. I think they were saying. So already with news of that being out there, and now the DUI, I feel like that definitely pushed him to the case where he's more than likely going to fight the winner of that fight, like next. That's probably what's going to happen, especially when you get doing stuff outside the cage you should not be doing. But how you feel about the whole thing? You think it's dumb? And, you think that puts his fight in jeopardy, or do you think he already should have to fight the winner of that instead of getting an instant title shot?
Yeah, I definitely think he should have to fight the winner of either Khamzat versus Paulo Costa or just a Dricus Duplessis fight. I think Sean Strickland, we covered it until we found out that he's got a lot more going on last week in our first podcast about how it's either Khamzat or Paulo or Dricus Duplessis. I think it's a good time for him to be on good terms with John Jones because John Jones could easily let him have it, but I guess they're nowhere near each other's weight anymore. So now they're on speaking terms, and I guess they're getting along well. It sucks, man. I'll say one thing: I don't wish jail or prison or or getting in trouble with the law on anybody because it's a shitty feeling. It's not a good look, you know what I mean? And it could, sway people to in the UFC, the matchmakers to be like, all right, well, we need to let him cool down. Let's give him to either Paulo or Khamzat, or if he gets lucky, Dracus du Plessis, because winning against Dracus du Plessis will definitively give him that title shot whenever he so desires. But I think it sucks, man. It's sad. It's not a good look. I think you hit it on the head. He's had 3 L's. He lost in the cage, he lost on the internet, and now he's losing in his personal life. And nobody wants that for anybody. And I think I haven't heard anything good about Izzy, like from the fans saying they, like, when they go up to him to try to talk to him, he just kind of like sneers at him, or doesn't give him the time of day, and that kind of sucks. A lot of people that I've talked to about it think that the fame and the money has gotten inside his head, and him wearing that t-shirt to that event where he was like, "I'm not your bank," talking about his ex-girlfriend. I think messy public situations are bad for anybody, and I don't wish it on anybody. But the next person we talk about, I can't say I feel the same, even though he's not my worst enemy, Colby Covington. I'm not a fan. I just got to be honest.
All right. So we have to got really 2 things we talk about Colby Covington. First thing we're gonna talk about is the undeserved title shots. The next thing we're gonna talk about is his recent comments on Sean Strickland, which is very interesting to me. But yeah, so undeserved title shots. You got Bilal Muhammad, who has, I think been underdog in like at least his last 3 fights. I think underdog against Sean Brady, underdog against Vicente Luque, underdog against Gil Burns, and has came out and showed out in all 3 of those fights. I think he was even underdog against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. So really like 4 or 5 fights he was the underdog. So he's been the underdog in a lot of these fights. And he's been winning after winning, and people still keep saying, "Oh, he needs to fight this guy," or "He's ducking this guy." The guy has done more than just about anyone really up there in history have done and have not got title shots. I can't really think of very many people who have done more and did not get a title shot. You can even say Usman had to win all these fights, but Usman didn't knock out that many top ranked fighters and not get a title shot. And he definitely wasn't coming there as the underdog. So time after time, not even time, like fight back to back to back, he's been coming in underdog, he's been winning. So I think that man deserves a title shot. And I don't feel like Colby Covington, he's been inactive. His last win was over Jorge Masvidal, who wasn't even a title threat, really. I mean, he had 2 title fights, but he didn't 2 undeserved title shots. And yeah, that's not a win should have ever got him a title shot. It's not. And he hasn't fought in 2,000 days or something like that. And his win is over Jorge Masvidal, who's retired. So that just don't make no sense. I can see Jorge Masvidal, and that's the other thing. Like, he's getting an undeserved title shot because I guess they believe he's a big draw. But is he truly a big draw? I don't think so. I think his fight against Usman, they had decent numbers, nothing crazy. His match against Jorge Masvidal, who's supposed to be a big star, I don't think nothing crazy happened. So Masvidal wasn't enough to carry that fight. They didn't sell the fight well either. Not them personally, but the UFC. I feel like UFC now is doing the worst marketing they have done in their life. I feel like when Conor McGregor was on top, when GSP was on top, I feel like they did a good job marketing. But I feel like lately they just been expecting the fighters to sell the fight themselves, basically, on their social media and stuff. But their promotion has just been not the best for the most part. Like, let's look at the Islam Makhachev versus Volkanovski fight. That fight didn't get no promotion. That was a super fight. But yeah, back to this one. Yeah, I don't feel like Colby Covington is that big of a draw, to be honest. And I feel like Bilal Muhammad definitely more deserving. I feel like they can draw similar cells, and it'll be just interesting. I feel like there's not really even no real beef or a real story behind Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards. So it's really nothing there. I can see them trying to force Jorge Masvidal into an easy title fight. Well, not an easy title fight, but an easy path to a title fight, because he still had the whole 3-piece in the soda thing with Leon Edwards. So that was an interesting narrative. They could have forced that and, gave Leon Edwards a chance to beat the man who got that little cheap shot on him. Like, that would have sold well. I think that would have sold 1 million vibes because people been waiting on that match, but it never happened. The UFC missed the opportunity there. Like, they could literally give Leon Edwards, not Leon, but they could give Jorge Masvidal like some number 20 guy and let him win that fight. Pay the dude off, do whatever, just so they could sell the fight instead of giving him Gilbert Burns, which was a dumb thing. Just give him an easy fight that could get him a title fight or give him a win just enough to gift him a title shot. But Colby Covington, there's no real beef. Colby Covington hasn't fought in 2,000 days. He's not really even a big pay-per-view star. And he's getting up there in age. So it's like, really, there's no real thing. So the title fight really makes no sense. And I feel like we've been smartest in like the back car with good fights on it and let like a Bilal Muhammad fight him. Or even give Bilal Muhammad a chance to fight
Kobe
Kobe Covington.
Covington.
That fight would sell because they've been talking a lot of trash back and forth, and that would be a good fight. Then let that be a title eliminator, and I think Bilal Muhammad would take that fight. Kobe Covington probably wouldn't want to take that fight because he don't want no hard fights. He just want to get a title fight, or he don't want no hard fight that's not a title fight. Especially, he don't want to go in there with a wrestler, so he want to go in there with somebody he can probably lay on. So yeah, but I don't agree with the matchup. And the second thing I'm gonna wrap it up with, or at least on my end, is the recent comments about Sean Strickland. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, y'all both kind of aligned the same way in a similar, obviously, like, little bit difference, but both kind of go for that kind of same approach. Y'all kind of say whatever y'all want to say. Yeah, both kind of had that same little bit of edge. So I don't know why he's commenting on Strickland. I guess he's just trying to get some of Strickland's buzz because it's like this came out of left field, I guess. But yeah, it don't make no sense. But I guess the biggest sense it does make is he's trying to sell a fight that he don't belong in. So he gonna talk about whoever when he talk about. He can talk some trash about Adesanya. He can bring up the old stories of John Jones, and he needs to bring attention back himself because he hasn't fought in 2,000 days. So he got to use his mouth to get attention on him because he ain't been doing it with his fist or his feet or his wrestling because he ain't been fighting. But yeah, your thoughts on not Sean Strickland, but your thoughts on Kobe Covington title shot, the Sean Strickland comments, and whether he really even deserves to be in this spot or is even the big pay-per-view star they're trying to sell him is for this fight.
Yeah, I think the UFC is doing so well that they can make pretty much any fight they want, and they know that people will show up, and it'll put ass in the seats. You know what I mean? I think I want to watch every UFC event just because I love the UFC. Like, it's done so much for my like mental health, my life on the weekends. It gives me something to look forward to. It blessed me with this podcast. But no, I don't think at all Kobe Covington deserves the title shot over Bilal Muhammad or even Shavkat. Shavkat who's on a tear right now, and he's burning through everybody that he fights. Instead, Bilal has to sit out and wait, and I don't think that that's fair to Bilal. I also don't think it's fair to Shavkat just because they're on such, they've done so much in their last fights. I think, they know that Kobe Covington will sell a fight because he runs his mouth and he says outlandish things, and that kind of ties into the whole Sean Strickland thing. It's funny because Sean Strickland was making fun of Andrew Tate, but their ideas are aligned as well. So it's like all these guys in the same like sphere that have all like the same political and I guess Sean Strickland isn't like pro-Trump or anything, but like I saw Kobe Covington on the James Lynch podcast, and he was just saying his normal stuff, just like, Leon Scott, I'm doing this for President Donald Trump. And I just think that like because he has that base of fans as well, I think that they know that if they put some like, because I would way rather see Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad. I'd way rather see Leon Edwards versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. And I know Shavkat was supposed to fight Kelvin, and like he's fighting people that aren't, that are scary. Like everybody thought the Jeff Neal fight was going to be a huge problem for him, and he just barreled through that. And it looked like Jeff Neal was having a bad night. But at the same time, like I think there's people way more deserving, people who have actually done stuff in the last 2,000 days rather than just beat up their old best friend that's no longer fighting, and he gets a title shot just because they think that he brings draw. But again, I'm not a UFC matchmaker. If I was, I'd be like, I would be the first person to be like, we got to give the fight to Bilal. We got to give the fight to Shavkat, because more people want to see those fights because there's more question marks there. I think the way that Colby Covington, or the way Leon dealt with Kamaru Usman, who in turn beat Colby twice, I don't think that Colby's deserving of it. And I think it's funny because Sean Strickland and him, talk kind of the same way, but I think Sean Strickland's a nicer guy than him, and that's saying a lot because Sean Strickland, he hates everybody. So, but yeah, those are my thoughts. I think there's been a lot of good news to cover in this podcast. I'm really grateful for everybody that shows up and listens, and hopefully we got some information out there tonight that people didn't know about.
Yeah. And back to the Sean Strickland, one little final thing on that. I feel Kobe Covington, well, Sean Strickland, he is who he is. Where I feel like Kobe Covington, he has like at least 2-3 different sides. Like he'll have that brash side, like he's trying to be a WWE wrestler and he'll talk trash. But then out of that, he'll be like a Boy Scout where his little turtleneck and stuff, and he'll be all like quiet and like that. Where like Sean Strickland, you want to see Sean Strickland in the cage, he's that way. You see Sean Strickland in the gym, he's that way. You see Sean Strickland at the bar, you see him out in public. That's who Sean Strickland. I feel like Kobe Covington, he talking trash, but it's like how much of that is really, really who he is, and how much of that is just his image. And I feel like all the trash talking comes from his character. So yeah, Sean Strickland definitely, at least one thing you could say he has a feather up in him. Well, he's an official champion. That's one feather up, a big feather up. Another big feather up is he is who he is. There ain't no sugarcoating. Like he'll tell how he is in interviews, no matter who he's around. That's just who he is. So Kobe Covington could take a note and just be himself, at least more so.
Yeah, definitely
And
now too.
yeah, at this point, I got to put that salesman away now.
Mhm.
Like you get toward the end of your career now. Now it's time before you retire. People see who you really are instead of like being a character. You're already in this position. Don't need to keep playing this character as much as you plan it. But hey, he got to do what he got to do. He feel like he needed to do that to sell fights, and he gonna stick on that till he retires. And later on, 45 years go by. I mean, not 45, but he turned 45, and like he gonna come out and say in interviews like, yeah, that was just a character. I'm not even this, not that. But for right now, it's still very obvious, like very much a character. And Sean Strickland, at least say what you want to say about him. He is who he is. But yeah,
Yeah,
that wraps up the bit. Yeah, you about to say something?
no, I was just gonna say, yeah, that's the difference in respect factor. Just like I have an immense amount of respect for Sean Strickland, just because, like you said, he is who he says he is. And with Colby Covington, I totally get he was about to be fired and he had to do something brash to be able to get noticed. But now, like, he's still playing a character and like he's saying things about Jorge Masvidal's kids, and like it's not a good look, man. I mean, it is what it is, but don't be butthurt and try to press charges when someone shows up to beat you up because they're really about that life and you're not. You know what I mean? I mean, he's a great fighter, but like it just sucks, man. It does.
Yeah. But that wraps up this episode of the podcast, pilot episode number 2. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and come back for more videos. Come back for more podcasts. And once again, subscribe to Nikki Betts. I'll drop his YouTube in the comment section below. He'll definitely be in the comment section below. We'll be in the comment section below. So you'll have plenty of ways to see his channel, see his name, hit the subscribe. Definitely more content coming his way, more content coming this way, and to see all of it, subscribe to both channels. That's the easiest way. You subscribe to both channels, nothing you're gonna miss. And that's the video. Peace.